Welcome to the Bigger, Braver, Bolder podcast with Debi Marriott-Lavery. In episode 4, the tables have turned. Rather than Debi asking the questions, Simon steps into the interviewer's chair and gives Debi a rare opportunity to pause and reflect on her first year at St George Community Housing and also her first year living and leading in Australia. Listen out too for the newest and possibly most challenging addition in Debi's Aussie adventure. So get yourself comfortable and give this one a listen. We'd love to know what you think.
Light to dark in no time whatsoever.
Yeah, it does. It really drops about 5:30. And it is really weird. But then the only thing that I think is you don't get that 3:30 thing that you do get at home though in the depths of winter. Because if you think about this now, I
Right.
keep saying this. So what day are we? So we're the 8th of July, which is the equivalent of the 8th of January. If you think of
Wow.
that in
Yeah.
those kinds of timings.
Yeah. I think
So the
that's
8th of
some,
January, it would be like super dark, wouldn't it? Like 4 o'clock,
it doesn't get light, does it?
Right, right.
So I've got a series of questions, if that's okay, to
Yeah,
go
let's do
through.
it.
And on your podcast so far, you have obviously formed into quite a interviewer, haven't you? Like, gone from something where we used to chat and throw around ideas to you being the one driving the question. So I guess this is back to the flip of that again, where actually you've got a chance to hopefully think and ponder and answer some questions. So you're happy for that approach?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
12 months is 4 seasons. The Earth goes around the sun one time. I bet 1 year at St. George hasn't felt as simple as that. What stands out to you? When you look back, what stands out the most?
Wow, that I don't know. That's such a big question,
It's
really,
huge.
isn't it? Yeah, it is massive. I guess uh, a year in Australia, we feel very settled, and the people who are thinking about making a big move. Um, I think, yeah, a year in, I think we would both say that actually we feel very, very settled. The people here are amazingly welcome, and we've got a real sense of community and belonging in terms of where we live, and to the point that we've now just got a puppy, so we're still making ridiculous life changing decisions. Um, from a work perspective, I guess I've had to think about where I've been previously as a CEO, and whether this is similar to when you're in the UK, and if you started a brand new job, is this similar? Um, I think it probably is. I think it probably is similar, a year in, if I think about Magenta or think about when I was at PFP and I took on both roles that I took there. Yeah, I'm sure there are lots of similarities. Um, but there still is a slight cultural difference, of course,
Mhm.
because I am the other side of the world, and you forget how far away it is, because sometimes it doesn't feel far away at all. And then other times you think, oh my days, you are the other side of the world, which is quite strange.
Yeah, and I do get that thing about distance, how sometimes this feels very close now, doesn't it? Like this
Yeah.
feels really close. And then in other moments it feels, especially with the time zones, just so far away. And a question. So 12 months, like, it's no time whatsoever. And I've known you for quite some time, and I know that you prefer actions over talking. Okay. So if we can get something done,
Although I like to
let's,
talk, as we all know. I do,
yes.
I do like,
Talking with as long as it's going somewhere, as long as
yeah.
there's a purpose in the business context. Um, when you went into St George, you made a conscious decision to listen, to learn, to figure things out.
Yeah.
And what did you learn during that time that you couldn't have known from day one?
Oh, wow. Again, really good question. Well, I guess one of the things well, did I know it or did I not know it? The importance of discovery, really. I think of all the roles that I've done and all the new roles that I've had throughout my career, the significance of absolutely doing that piece of discovery here. And And we've framed it and we've named it that, which I think has been so important because it hasn't just been, oh, I've gone in and I've listened, or I've asked, why do you do that, or how do you do it? I think it literally has been a period, an era of discovery. I don't want to use the hackneyed phrase of a journey, but I think it has been and it still is. And I think that probably is the thing that, although I knew it, I didn't realize it was as significant as it is and still is. And there's a beauty to that because I'm still learning and I'm still discovering, and that's what makes you show up, and that's what makes you keep reflecting and keep making you strive and drive to do the best that you can. Um, but yeah, I would say that discovery is just discovery, curiosity, all those words that we've used. But here it's been like, wow, yeah, that it's been massive, massive.
And like as you're saying that, so obviously it was a period of time. It was the, sit on your hands just to start with on purpose to make
Mm.
sure that, you've
Doesn't
got the
sit with me,
understanding.
does it? At all?
I know how uncomfortable that has been. But actually hearing it now, this idea when you turn discovery into curiosity, does this become a really important cultural shift of actually something that you don't want to end now?
I don't want it to end. I genuinely, I think A, it can't,
Mm.
and B, I don't want it to. So I think, if it did, then you've almost doing yourself and the organization a disservice for a start. You're also potentially being very arrogant because he's like, how can you learn everything in a year? This is an organization that's 40 years old. I mean, a brand new country with different cultures. I mean, this week is NAIDOC week, for example, right? How on earth can I even pretend that I know what that feels like, or what that means, and how that shows up, or how cultures and the oldest generations in the world feel about that, and what that means to this country and to therefore the organization that I run. So I think that there's so much of that. And I think in previous roles, because you pretty much know the sector, you know the country, you know how it works. You always go in and you always ask why, but you think that you've got a good understanding of, well, yeah, that's because X equals Y, or yeah, I've seen that happen before and I know that that's the way it's going to be. And although there's a degree of that here because we're all part of our experiences and there are many similarities, I still think you have to check yourself here and go, but hang on a second. And every single day there's something new that I would not have known or wouldn't have thought of, or you have to put a different lens on it. So yeah, it's it's interesting.
Yeah, and do you think culturally, because of your move, this is almost a bit of a green card to be curious, to ask the questions that maybe if it was another UK role, you probably wouldn't feel as comfortable, but there's almost an expectation of you already to have those answers.
Yeah, I think there is. The expectation is a bit like we've said many times, like learning to drive. All of a sudden, you like, yeah, you know what you're doing. But I think here it's a slightly different lens to that as well, because I think here that again, you can't, you've got to be a bit more humble and show humility, that this is a new country that you're in and you are learning. And yes, you come with a whole heap of tools and tricks that you've learned throughout the years that make you the person that you are and, drive through leadership and all those things that are a toolbox that and a set of skills that are always going to work, no matter where you are. But there's just that slight nuance here that you just can't take anything for granted and you've just got to go, does that translate? So yesterday I was in a meeting with 80 people leaders and we were talking about our new strategy and the next 5 years. And there were just certain things that I was saying and I'm still going, does that translate in Australia? Because
Yeah.
you're just, and you have to just be really careful about that. But yeah, it's a fascination to think that, I'm at my age and the stage of my career and that's still is driving me. And I think although sometimes it's hard, it's really great. It's refreshing because you
Yeah.
don't just come in like, I know it all. And you'd never do that anyway, because of course it's new and there's different people and there's always some sort of, I don't know, geographical newness, or there's, just a little kind of soupçon of something that's different to what you've experienced before. And you just want to make sure that the culture or whatever, and you go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But here it's like, okay. let's just absolutely make sure that this works. And I am not just kind of broad brushing this and going and having, just arrogance and foresight that's just not right
Yeah,
or correct.
I love that. I love that. And that leads me to my next question quite nicely. So it's not broad brush, it's got to be fresh and it's exciting and it's new to you and it's keeping you on your toes. And yes, it's hard work, but it's, it's using the grey matter. Um, and we've started this by saying when you first went in, you had to sit on your hands, you had to learn, you had to figure things out before you made some moves. Now, just talking about those moves, and I've got a list here. I had to list these. So St. George has got a new purpose. St. George has got new values. St. George has got a new strategy, a 5-year plan as opposed to a year-on-year plan, etc. And we're still talking about the first year here. So all of a sudden
Well,
we've
there's
gone from
more than that as well. Funny enough, yesterday I did the whole reflection because you know how important it is to me that so it's like it's the end of the financial year as well and the start of the new year. Because even that's different because of course, I'm used to it being sort of, March, April. We're now in the world of June, July. So even, those and I know that there are different sort of fiscal years in the UK too, but that's kind of new. You get paid fortnightly here, for example. Do you know what I mean? There's like so many different things that are weird. But anyway, um, I went through that, and you're absolutely right. If you look back to the 100 questions, talking to 100 people, asking 100 questions. What were the outputs of that? What have we done? And all those things that you've listed. But then even there, much more from a BAU perspective as well. Like, we've launched so many different initiatives around kind of change readiness and people. We're 18 weeks away from NEC. We've put in all different initiatives that will help kind of customers from a real basic level of creating Winnie in terms of, agents and chatbots. And, we've added things that will help the frontline colleagues to do their roles kind of much better. We've kind of stepped back and really driven a safety culture, which we never had. We're kind of phase two into the changes of our operating model and to really drive that whole customer centric view so that the roles that we've added or moved around are creating sort of excellence for customer. And that's at the very heart and the very root of it. We've increased visibility and comms through varying different routes through, just some basic stuff in terms of socials and all hands meetings and tea chats, Tim Tam chats, as we're calling them, and such like, and that real focus on purpose. But yeah, and then whilst all this is going on as well, and I can tell you this because I did this whole review, we've put, so last financial year, while all that was going on with the PVV, with the strategy, with everything else, we put new keys in 521 doors for
wow,
customers.
wow.
And we are building currently in that year 574 more that we'll realize this year or the following year. So you've got all of those different things that are going on. And while you're looking at, as I say, 18 weeks away from an EC launch, and then there's all the BAU. How do we keep continually improving the service level that we give to customers? And how do we enable our colleagues to be able to work in a better way that enables increased customer service? And we had a 40-year birthday last year as well, but St. George. And so you've got all that legacy, got a new looking ELT team. So yeah, there's loads of stuff that we've been able to do through that power of coming together as a collective team, seeing the problems that we need to solve, seeing the opportunities and just kind of running with it. But that whole discovery phase was what was important because every single thing that we've just talked about was because we listened to what people said. They talked about lack of accountability. They talked about lack of purpose. They talked about that change as the organization's grown and not really know who it was anymore or where it was going or what was its brand or what was its identity or what it was here for. We talked about, low kind of colleague engagement because of all the changes, poor systems, lack of visibility, all of those things were what we heard. And every single thing that we're doing so far is because we were able to sit, as you said, on our hands, but really deep dive into what really is going on out there and what do our customers really need from us.
Has has that surprised you? Like, just going through that list and seeing the changes and seeing the things that have started. And we're not talking about little things, are we? We're talking about some big, big jigsaw pieces inside there.
Yeah.
Does that now, just 12 months in, actually surprise you?
I think it only surprises you when you take the time to look back and realize, because I think constantly you're on this treadmill of movement and drive and on to the next and the next and the next. We live in such a dynamic world, sort of from externally, let alone what goes on internally and how you respond into things. So um yeah, it does surprise me, but we just gotta keep pushing forward, haven't we, with all of that? Because otherwise you just get left behind. But if you don't have that chance to reflect and realize and say, "Okay, that was 12 months.
Mm,
What did we actually do?" And I was saying to the team yesterday, it's also that time to look forward for the next 12 months to say, "Well, what do I want to achieve?
yeah,
What should I be looking at this time next year and go, did we do it?
yeah,
Did we do it?" So I guess the question would be, if you asked me 12 months ago, is this what I wanted to achieve? And yes, it was.
yeah.
I wanted us to launch. I wanted to listen. I wanted to fully engage with the organization. I wanted to get a real sense of who they were, what I needed to do, how I could help, how we could drive this forward, what was the opportunity. And then to learn that it was to create a new purpose and be really well, a refined purpose, to be clear on values and then drive a really strong 5-year vision and be ready to go. And then have all the parts in place to start to do that. We're only at the very kind of start of it, but have those component parts in place. Then yes, I would say, yeah. But you don't think about that when you're
Uh-huh.
running at 400 miles an hour.
Yeah. I want to pick up on a few things you said there. So what I'm hearing loud and clear is that you didn't sit on that plane coming over a year ago with here's the playbook. This is how it's going to play out the next 12 months, etc. Um, but there's two things I want to focus on. I do think there was something in the playbook, and we're seeing it now with the strategy starting to launch and get shared, etc. About customer. So it's no surprise in what you've said that customer runs through this. So was that a conscious decision? When you landed, did you
Yeah.
did you think to yourself, customer has to stand loud and proud in everything we do here?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I guess it's when you are going to somewhere new, um, and yes, you've been through quite a protracted process of research around the role and whether it suits, whether it's right for me, whether it's right for the organization. So you've got a sense of kind of where all that is. Um, but you have to have a North Star, don't you? And no matter what it was always going to be about, it was all going to be about customers, tenants, people. That's what I've done for my career for years. And so that was never going to change. It was just, okay, they may be in different environments, there may be cultural nuances, cultural differences, there may be slightly different challenges, but that's what it's all about. And every action, every decision, everything that you do has to be for those customers and tenants. And if you start from that, you ain't going to go far wrong. And then if you just elaborate that slightly to the people, which includes the colleagues as well, then then that that's what kind of grounds you. And if you set it from that perspective, you can't go far wrong, really. And no matter how we refine the purpose or the strategy, the ultimate purpose is always there, that you're there to make a difference for your customers and your tenants who are part of your organization. Um, so yeah, you just have to hang on to that, I guess.
But it's easier said than done, isn't it? I imagine, with business as usual, that sometimes that feeling can fade or fall into the background when you're dealing with different things. How do you keep that forefront in the mind?
That is a really good question, and a mute point, I guess, not just a good question. Because yeah, there are times that you just have to focus on that. And I know you and I have had conversations before about having that empty chair and just kind of remembering all the time as to, like, this is what you're there for, this is what you do. And recently I was on a plane, and it was one of those times that you do have ability to think. And I remember scribbling down in my notes in terms of where I was and what I wanted to do. That again, that point of every decision, every action has to be to make a difference for our customers and our brackets, our people.
Mm.
And I think you just have to link back to that all the time. Does it do that? Does whatever we do sit with our purpose? Yeah. Does it sit with our values? Does it deliver what we need to be? And I guess that's my job. I've got a whole team of people who can make that happen, but I've got to zoom us out and make sure that that's the, I guess that's the check and balance, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is, isn't it? Keep, I think, and we've spoke about that. What I think you're very good at is taking people out of their little funks, they're getting stuck in the weeds, etc., and just to elevate again. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Something else you said, I'm going to ask a provocative question here. So you go into an organization. This organization has been around for 40 years. They're celebrating their 40th birthday, um, and you revisit the purpose. Does that mean that the organization didn't have a purpose? What was it that needed to happen there, and what happened around the purpose?
No, I think that the organization definitely had a purpose. It had a purpose for 40 years. And I think every single individual that was in the organization when I arrived knew that they wanted to be there to drive the best outcomes for customers, tenants. What I think had got slightly lost or confused in a way was an organization that had grown at Topsy. So 40 years ago, there was, an entrepreneur who wanted to support people who were less fortunate and had 25 properties. And it was a decision he made on his back porch that he was like, right, he was going to be able to do this. And then, through years of legacy and history and all those things, you grow and grow and grow to be the size that the organization is today. So with that, there are always going to be times that you've got to step back and react to what's going on externally, what's going on internally, is going on economically, just universally, all of those things. And I think that's happened. And I think the organization has probably done that very, very well. But probably at the detriment of its purpose, because it's looked and said, right, there's a housing crisis. So what are we going to do? Right, we are going to be at the forefront of that. So we're going to build as many houses as we can. And then I think there was a bit of a, whoa, well, what does that mean? Because if we're now just building houses, or, we're getting into market rent properties and affordable properties, that removes us from this initial point that we were there to help and support the most vulnerable people in society. So I think it was just that world of evolution, of metamorphosis that happens when an organization is running, 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 and probably just doesn't get the opportunity to stop and say, okay, a second, hang on a minute. Let's just have clarity around this, because, we haven't moved away from where we are. We still have a promise that we are that organization, but we also need to be modern and relevant. So it's now going to look like this. And sometimes it's just about narrative. So I think the purpose has always been there. It's a purposeful organization. It's got a business mind and a social heart, 100%. I think there just needed to be that real clarity of like, this is why we are now doing things, and this is what our purpose will mean, no matter where we are and how we need to fulfill other obligations that are going on around us.
Makes perfect sense. I think 40 years, it's a lot changes in 40 years, doesn't it? And things drift, things change, and just to revisit it, refocus around it is so, so important, so, so important. And what is it, Debbie? What is the purpose of St. George, or the refreshed wording?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's simple but beautiful. I genuinely think, and it was all part of a big collaboration that we did with our colleagues, our customers, wider stakeholders, to understand that as we are moving and as we're trying to keep being modern and relevant and still connecting to the people that we were 40 years ago, and still doing the right thing for, the customers, the people, the tenants, the people that we serve, what are we trying to do? And whether you are in a community housing property, whether you're a stakeholder, whether you are in one of our new build to rent properties, the thing that came out loud and proud, and particularly with the the links to our indigenous communities as well, which is very important to us. The big thing that came through is that what we do is we try to create belonging. So it's not just about being a landlord and creating houses. It's about creating place and placemaking, and ultimately it's about having a situation that no matter who you are and at what point that you may come into contact with us as an organization, that we can create belonging for you at that period in time. So
Wow.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's our purpose.
Um, I mean, it sounds amazing. Like in terms of St. George, it can be challenging. I'd imagine that puts
Mm.
a new lens on things you're trying to do, how you tackle conversations, things you don't do. What's the biggest challenge, would you say, for St. George to live that purpose now?
Mm. I think, yeah, there'll be lots of challenges for us to live that purpose because it is ambitious. Let's face it, it's very ambitious. But we should be ambitious as an organization that sees itself that wants to be sustainable for the next 40 years at least. So therefore, why should we not have an aspiration as well to really support our customers and tenants in the best way that we can? So yeah, it's challenging because I'm sure that there are people that will come into contact with us who are at periods in their life where they are not in a place where they're feeling that they belong. So it's for us to be able to demonstrate that. And it's probably just not going to be one thing that fits all. So it's going to be quite nuanced. We're going to have to be quite creative. We're going to have to think differently. We're going to have to challenge ourselves, put a different lens on things. So a different lens on who our partners are and does that work for us? You know, do our properties, do our homes fit the belonging lens? Do our processes, our systems, do the way that we show up for our customers fit the belonging lens? And I think that yeah, I think that's a really good thing to have. And it is
Mhm.
that sort of that point of North Star contact that, as we talked about earlier, that you keep going, okay, does this help us create belonging? And if it does, great. If it doesn't, then why are we doing it? Or can it help us to create belonging? Um, so yeah, I'm really excited for it, but it's not going to be easy because yeah, some of our situations are not necessarily what you would aspire for them to be. So
Mhm.
we've got to change that dial.
So I love that. So if we were to ask what is success for you, if we were fast forward in 5 years and something happened in 5 years' time, an interaction, something you heard about, something you saw, whatever it would be, what would that thing be that made you think we've done this, we've had success here?
Yeah, I think it will be that our customers and our wide ranging customers and the segmentation and the demographic of those customers that we can prove in some way that all of our interactions or all of the decisions that we've made have in some way deliver a point of belonging for those customers that so to say, yeah, I feel I belong in some way, shape, or form. I feel that, yeah, that it's created belonging for me. I've got a safe community that I live in, and I feel that that I belong. And whether that's temporarily, or whether that's long term, or whether it's a period in time, or whether it's just the interaction that they have with our teams at some point, and we're going to have to find a way to measure that, and that's not going to be easy. But I think that's the goal, and that's the objective that we need to set ourselves, that we can say that yes, everything that we did, all of the growth plans that we have, of which we have some very ambitious growth plans, all of the changes that we're doing, all the modernizing of of the organization, the innovation that we want to drive forward, all will come back to that point that ultimately the lens or the objective or the output was that we created belonging.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Hold that thought because,
Yeah, I need to
yeah.
hold that thought. And I, good thought.
Well, look, it's immense, isn't it? When you think about the journey, you think about all the moving parts and in still a relatively small amount of time, where you sit now to where, you sat 12 months ago and everything, etc. So work side, Fantastic. It feels like he's moving in that right direction. We've got a good strategy. We've got a re-anchored purpose. We've got a vision of where we're heading to, etc. I want to flip it now, and I want to talk about you for a second because obviously there's Debbie, the CEO of the organization, and there's also Debbie that's just moved her life, to the other side of the world. Um, 12 months in, do you feel like you belong?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. We've landed on a place, a community that I think suits us very well. The Australians, particularly, have been very, very welcoming and warming to both me and Mark. And yeah, I think that we do feel that we belong. That's not to say we don't miss everyone at home. And having just been back in the UK a few weeks ago, it's hard.
Mhm.
The distance is hard, and there are times you don't see that there's a distance, and other times it hits you like an absolute truck, and you're like, wow, that it is that people are so far away. And so that is hard. But do we feel that we belong where we are in the community that we've chosen and the place that we are? Yes. Yes, I think we do. And I think it's a very warm, welcoming culture. There are lots of things that have happened over the last year that make you think, wow, I would hope that somebody going to the UK for the first time and choosing to be there and working there in that in the same the same example that we are, that they would experience the same things. I'm not sure.
No.
Potentially they would right now. So I want to be provocative and controversial, but I certainly think that
You don't.
that's what's happened. That's what's happened here for sure. Yeah.
Have you learned anything about yourself over the last year?
Oh, loads, 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 loads. Resilience, I guess, and which I kind of I flip in and flip out as to what my levels of resilience are. But I think, yeah, resilience, that sense of adventure that I really crave, that sense of adventure. So yeah, um, definitely being a change agent, but understanding the parameters of change that sort of make me anxious versus what I really enjoy and embrace. And that, yeah, you're never too old. You're never too old to learn. You're never too old to put yourself in that position of just striving to something different, having new opportunities, learning new things, putting yourself in environments that put you out of your comfort zone. All of that at times feels really uncomfortable, but it's what keeps you alive. And I kind of knew that anyway, but I guess I've just proved it. Yeah.
It
And I guess the thing I've really learned is that people matter. And I knew that as well, but it really brings it into stark reality that people matter, and keeping those relationships alive and going to meeting new people and then being very important to you. Your own relationships and the strength of those to get you through when it's just the two of you. And you do that really well. And then also keeping those relationships 12,000 miles away that are really important to you, and not letting those relationships fizzle, or, yeah, and working out which relationships and which friends and which family members, are really key to you, and who you really want to make sure you spend that time and effort with. And yeah,
mm,
it's people are what are important.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's huge, isn't it? If you think about the 12 months you've just had, what would you set yourself as a goal over the next 12 months?
I think from a work perspective, we need to absolutely embed what we've started. So there's certain things we need to deliver on, but the first thing is we need to embed, because we've done so much in terms of setting new aspiration, new ideas. And if you don't embed those and drive that culture of change, then we won't achieve what we needed to achieve. And we can have, the greatest 5-year plans in the world. But so that's that. It's being sort of consistent. It's driving the same messages, the same languages, making sure that we do what we say we're going to do, all those things that you would expect. It's been an amazing and an immense 12 months. And I've learned so much. And, and clearly we've have done an awful lot as well. But I think now it is about delivery in the next 12 months. And it's about that thought leadership piece as well. Because I think my confidence is growing and I'm seeing a number of things, and my experience from previous world and particularly in the UK and things I'm seeing here, I think there's a number of things that we can now start to move forward on, and that we probably need to be more pointed in our in the way that we show up. And I think the first way to do that is to really drive that thought leadership of, okay, that's been the last 12 months. What are we going to do now? And how can we do it? And why would we do it? Because this is just, it's my opinion, but this is what I think probably needs to happen.
Yeah. So I'm hearing now. So there's a thing called imposter syndrome. I'm sure well, I think we've even
Oh, yeah.
talked about
We
it,
know
isn't
we'll have it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it? And but then there's a point, isn't there, where it flips, where you almost feel compelled, like you have to lead a conversation, you have to put some
Mm.
thinking out there. Is that what I'm hearing from you now? Are you now sat at that point thinking it's your role, it's your duty to move
Yeah.
the needle here on a few things?
I think there's an expectation as well. So I think there is, yeah. So I think that exactly that. I think I've been very internally focused, and I think this would be important probably to say. I've been very internally focused, rightly, for the last 12 months, and I don't make any excuse about that. I think it's what was needed, and that is that whole kind of learning piece and stuff. And I didn't want to show up without having that confidence, or and not just the confidence, but feeling that I was able and eligible to kind of show up and have those conversations. But now I think, yeah, there's an expectation on me and a responsibility for me to running one of the largest CHPs in Australia, certainly the largest in New South Wales, and what I see and where we're at, and the way that we've been vanguard in many of our approaches and our new strategy. And I think the importance of that. So, yeah, I think it's time that we show up and that we drive that thought leadership. But I'd want to do it in the right way. We've got to absolutely deliver, 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 deliver. Um, from a personal perspective, I need to paint more
Yeah.
because yeah, that's, yeah. And um, learn how to cope with having a new puppy.
I feel like paint
I'll
more and have a
survive that.
puppy. Yeah, I'm gonna say these feel like juxtaposed to each other. So tell us about your puppy then.
Bundle, his name. He arrived on Saturday. He's the most gorgeous thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Which everyone would say, but he is super cute, super, super cute. He's a noodle. So he's tiny and he's full of life and energy. But for someone who has like significant kind of OCD around cleanliness, it is challenging me probably more than I've been challenged. So I love the whole kind of beauty of having something different in your life, but it's quite confronting. So it's that emotion of something that's fabulous and beautiful and different versus like, whoa. And so even though 12 months ago, I upended my life, our lives, and moved the other side of the world, I feel that this is more confronting right now, but I'm 4 days in, to be fair. But this feels more confronting than things that probably not anything I've done, but certainly is right up there, 4 days
It
in.
makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Move to the other side of the world, see over a large organization, and just add another challenge into the mix as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So
yeah. I think it's time to stop. I
yeah.
think, yeah,
So we've got enough challenges going on right now. So
yeah,
um,
it's time to stop.
So, Debbie, at the end of each one of your podcasts, you ask a series of questions to your guest. The podcast obviously called Bigger, Braver, Bolder, and you say to them in your life, what have you done recently that is bigger, braver, and bolder? So the tables have turned here. So let me throw it over to you. So right now, when we say those three words, bigger, braver, bolder, where does your mind go?
Puppy, puppy, puppy. Seriously. No, no, in all honesty. So bigger. So we've just described, we've just had from a work world, we've just had a whole 12 months of discovery and design. And so like now we're getting bigger because we're now into, implementation and delivery. So that's going to be huge. So bolder, we absolutely, I think, need to be very ambitious in our approach and not be afraid to be at the forefront of a number of, I think, quite critical decisions around the housing sector and where it's at its point, and what we can do to make sure that we advocate for our customers. And then in terms of braver, then yeah, for me to be that person that's the one that's doing that in a country that's still relatively new to me, and one that I'm still trying to navigate my way through and be culturally appropriate and not seem arrogant, but also come over as confident, then I think that's probably going to be, quite brave as well.
Mm.
And then also puppy, puppy, puppy.
Well, look, good luck with it all, but good luck with the puppy as well. So, look, thank you. Perfect.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, we'd love to hear what you think. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share, and join us next time on the Bigger Braver Broader podcast. Thank you.